Stablecoins. Let's go. Oh, it's over there. All right. Oh, nice. Okay. Cool. Hey, everybody. So today we're going to talk about Type 3 stablecoins. You're probably wondering, wait, there's like 3 types? Well, that's actually 4. And yeah, we'll get to it. First of all, we're not going to be talking about the giants like USDC, USDT. Those guys are doing great. They have a lot of PMF. They are used for settlement, right? On-ramping, off-ramping. They're backed by fiat in a bank account. We're not talking about them today. We're talking about interest-bearing stablecoins. Things like MAI, things like Ethena, things like DAI, LUSD, etc. So to not keep you in suspense, we're going to start by showing you all of the types of stablecoins according to us. This talk will mostly focus on Type 1 to Type 3 because that's where the innovation is happening today in stablecoins. But briefly about Type 0, yeah, you can imagine like there's like a line here between endogenous yield and exogenous yield. Endogenous yield Type 0 is like your CDPs, your AMOs. Vitalik calls them the Ouroboros of crypto because they are completely tied to usage of their platforms. So like AMOs are tied to somebody buying a token on CRV or Aerodrome. CDPs are tied to people leveraging their ETH, leveraging their Bitcoin. And so naturally, they can never grow beyond crypto because they get all of their yield from crypto. As an industry, as a stablecoin industry, we've largely gone away from these types of stablecoins because we've realized they don't scale. And today, no major stablecoins, I'm talking about over $500 million, are endogenous stablecoins. So we're going to focus on the others. And the way we break them up is how do they fulfill the promises that they are giving to users. So all of them promise exogenous yield that comes from outside of their platform, outside of the blockchain. But the way they deliver these promises really matters. Like if a team is delivering the yield, a DAO is delivering the yield, or maybe a blockchain is delivering the yield. Now, I didn't come up with this. This is this framework for thinking about promises and guarantees actually comes from Sriram, the founder of EigenLayer. And he talks about how we can, as an industry, offer more robust guarantees to users if we change up a little bit how we organize the decision-making with protocols. So why does it matter, right? Why does it matter how a protocol guarantees their promises? Well, if you don't know how these protocols are delivering their promises, you can't assess the downside. You can't assess the risk related to their operations. And so I even show Madoff here because we're supposed to be better than TradFi. We're supposed to be able to give guarantees that TradFi cannot give. But as you can see, I mean, banks are not my friends, not your friends. Turns out Alex is not a friend either, right? All of these teams that are in crypto haven't been any better than TradFi products. So let's start with authoritarian. So it sounds like a bad word, but it's purely descriptive, I promise. The first type of stablecoins, yield-bearing stablecoins that are exogenous, have 3 main characteristics. The most important one is that teams are the ones in charge of fulfilling promises, right? If you put money into Ethena, who is the one that ensures that you're going to earn yield? It's the Ethena team. If you put money into Ondo and you use into Resolve, who is in charge of making sure that they fulfill their promise of making yield is the team. Now, because these teams are the ones ensuring the yield, they can't do more than like 1 or 2 strategies because there's no way one of these teams can do 40 strategies. It doesn't really scale operationally. And then lastly, a key characteristic of this type of stablecoin is that they're unsecured custody. So you're essentially lending money to these protocols. And if they lose it via their strategies, you're out of luck, right? Like you lost your money, there's no recourse. But there's trade-offs. It's not all bad, not all good. The best part about these type of stablecoins is that they're simple, right? You're just putting money in and some HFT background developer is doing some strategy for you. So super simple. There's also a user agency. So let's say Ethena's yield is not that great. Well, you can move to Ondo and you can move to Resolve and you can pick your own adventure. That's pretty user-centric. They get to make the decision. Now, the key concern is that you have these teams playing with your money, right? And if they lose the money, well, you're out of luck and they're fine, right? Because it's not their money. And the other thing is obsolescence, right? There's no one strategy that will last forever. At one point, your strategy will become obsolete. We saw this with all these teams making T-bill protocols at the end of last cycle. And as soon as all of them went live, the crypto yields went up and suddenly nobody wants to use the T-bill stablecoins. And so this will happen to every single other stablecoin that relies on one or two strategies, in my opinion. So how do we evolve from here? So there's some cool projects that have decided that focusing on a team to guarantee this kind of yield is not scalable. So you have things like Sky, things like Angle, Maple. Now they focus the enforcement of these guarantees on DAOs or committees. So you have these groups of people that decide where the money will be allocated, and they give it to other parties to generate yield. So this is way more scalable, right? Because now you can have like TradFi institutions, market makers, folks that are really good at generating yield to do it for you. You still have the characteristic, obviously, of unsecured custody, right? If these folks that you're giving money to lose it, you're out of luck, you lost the money. So let's look at some of the pros and cons. So obviously way more scalable than type 1 stablecoins. The latency between strategies is much lower because let's say the strategy you're running now is no longer good. Well, you can just take out the money and put it somewhere else. And so this is what Sky does, right? Like if they have money in Ethena and Ethena's yield is no longer good, they can take it out and put it in Spark. They can put it into Coinbase. It's like very flexible. And the enforcement is better, right? Because if you have 100 people making a decision, it's going to be a more robust enforcement than if you have 2 people. It doesn't come without its cons, right? Downsides. So for example, you still don't have recourse. If the DAO makes a bad decision, you lost all your money, right? And also there's a lot of corruption in DAOs in general, right? Like we all know there are some big DeFi blue chip protocols that if you want them to launch on their chain, you make all their delegates your advisors, and suddenly a certain protocol launches on Metis. So like these things happen. Some people know about this stuff. Anyways, these things happen. You can corrupt DAOs. Like if you have a delegate that's making $100,000 a year to vote on $1 billion of liquidity, well, people can just bribe them $1 million to put their money in your protocol. And so that's bad for users. So this is what I'm trying to introduce to you guys today is a type 3 stablecoins. How can we still harness the power of efficient markets, of external parties generating yield for us, while still having robust guarantees for user safety? And so the key characteristic here is that instead of having a team or a DAO deciding where the money goes, you have an immutable set of rules tracked by a smart contract that decides where do we allocate funds. And this is very similar to Bitcoin, to Ethereum. If you're processing a transaction on Ethereum, you're not going to wait for Vitalik to validate it for you. He has no part in the decision-making process. There's just rules by which you get slashed, rules by which you make money in Ethereum. And that's why it's way more robust than the dApps that we have today. But nobody has built dApps that function like Ethereum. We're just recreating like these like Web 2 platforms. And another big part of Type 3 stablecoins, because they're self-enforcing, you cannot trust anybody at all. And so if a custodian has to take hold of the money in order to generate yield, you need to make sure that they're fully secured. Because at any time, we have to expect that they will be malicious. And so these kind of trust but check, I don't know what it's called, but verify, trust but verify, I think it's these kind of like values that we need to get back to as an industry. So pros are similar to the type 2, scalable because there's many strategies, low latency because you're not the one running the strategies, and then way more robust enforcement, right? You're not waiting for people to make decision. You're not waiting for like a team to make a decision. There's a smart contract with rules, predictable rules that decide which actors are benefiting the system and which actors are harming the system. Now, the cons is user agency is a big one, right? We don't think the users should be deciding whether they're putting their money on like Susquehanna or Franklin Templeton or Wintermute. They don't have this kind of skill, right? And year after year, users lose money by making these sort of decisions. And it's way higher complexity, right? We're not building just like a wrapper of a hedge fund. This is almost like a blockchain, right? Like you're having these immutable rules that dictate the penalties or the rewards of various actors. So that's self-enforcing stablecoins. Just as a high level, the outcomes of this. This is the current priorities for projects, right? Let me deliver the value that I promised to users, which is yield. Then let me compete with other people, so higher yield than other projects. And then lastly, let me protect. And you see this, you have projects that put everything in a multi-sig or have a lot of admin privileges. They clearly put protect users at the end. What we're saying is let's oh, I can't go to the next one. I guess there's nothing else, guys. There we go. So what we're saying is the number one thing we should do is protect users, right? If people are going to use us over TradFi, we need to give them something that they don't already have, right? In TradFi, they rely on regulators to protect them. We don't have regulators. We don't have robust regulation. So it's up to us to protect users, and that should be number one. Then we can worry about yield. Then we can worry about competing with other sources. And if we do that, the users that believe in us, we won't lose their principle and they won't leave our industry. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.